A dark shadow moved across the sky, slow and heavy, like something falling instead of flying. People in the human outpost stopped what they were doing and looked up. At first they thought it was a ship. Then they heard a deep, painful roar. It was not metal. It was alive. Evan Hale was working near the outer fence when he heard the alarms. Soldiers ran past him, shouting orders. He stepped outside and saw a huge shape coming down fast. It crashed into the ground with a force that shook the sand and sent dust flying into the air. When the dust settled, everyone froze. It was a dragon. She was large, wounded, and her dark scales had lost their shine. Her wings were torn and her breathing was weak. But the most shocking thing was not her. It was what she carried. Pressed close to her chest was a small hatchling, barely moving. The mother dragon gave a weak growl as soldiers aimed their weapons. But she did not raise her claws. She did not attack. She only looked scared, scared for the small life she held. Evan stepped forward without thinking. He did not know why. Maybe it was because the hatchling looked so small. Maybe it was because the mother dragon looked like she had used the last of her strength to reach them. He felt that she was not here to fight. She was here because she had no other choice. The commander shouted at him to stop, but Evan kept walking carefully. The mother dragon watched him with tired, glowing eyes. Then, slowly, she lowered her claws and placed the hatchling on the ground in front of him. Everyone gasped. A dragon giving her young to a human was unheard of. Evan knelt down. The hatchling's breathing was fast and shallow. Its tiny chest trembled. It was dying. The mother dragon made a soft sound, almost like a plea. She looked at Evan, then at her young, and lowered her head. Her meaning was clear even without words. She wanted him to help. Evan felt fear tighten his chest, but stronger than that fear was something else. A simple understanding. This creature had trusted him. She had chosen him. So he reached out and picked up the hatchling. The little body was warm and weak in his arms. Its small eyes barely opened, then closed again. The soldiers yelled for Evan to drop it. The commander ordered everyone to stay back. But the mother dragon suddenly raised her tail and slammed it on the ground between them. She was too weak to fight but strong enough to protect. She trusted Evan, but she did not trust anyone else. Evan stood up slowly with the hatchling in his arms. He looked at the mother dragon and she looked back with a mix of fear, pain, and hope. Her eyes followed his every move. "I'll try," Evan whispered, even though she could not understand his words. But maybe she understood his voice or his calm movements, because she relaxed slightly and lowered her head again. Evan walked toward the outpost lab. Soldiers stepped aside, unsure if they should stop him or let him continue. No one had ever seen a moment like this. A mighty alien dragon, feared across worlds, was letting a human carry her child. As Evan reached the doors of the lab, he looked back. The mother dragon tried to lift herself, but she collapsed from exhaustion. She lay on the sand, watching the lab entrance, waiting, hoping, refusing to leave until she knew her child was safe. People whispered in fear and disbelief. Dragons kill anyone who gets near their young. She should be attacking. Why is she trusting him? Evan did not have the answers. He only knew the hatchling needed help fast. He rushed inside and placed it on a table. The small creature made a soft, weak sound, and Evan felt something break inside him. He had to try. He could not let it fade away. Outside, the mother dragon let out a long, shaking cry. Not a roar of anger, but a cry of a mother who did not know if her child would live. Evan looked back through the window at her large, injured form. He felt the weight of her trust on his shoulders. Nobody else stepped forward. Nobody else wanted to risk it. But Evan was already moving, grabbing tools, activating medical devices, and taking a deep breath. The dragon had given him her most precious treasure. Now he had to give her something in return. Hope. Evan stood over the small hatchling as the lab lights flickered softly above him. The creature's breathing was uneven, its tiny body rising and falling in weak waves. He felt his heart beating fast, but he forced his hands to stay steady. Failure was not an option. Not when a mother dragon lay outside the outpost, too injured to move, waiting for any sign of hope. The medical team stood near the doorway, whispering among themselves. None of them wanted to come close. They said the biology was too different, that they could not help. They said touching a dragon hatchling was too dangerous. They said Evan was risking his life. Evan ignored them. He focused on the hatchling. Its scales were soft, not like the armored plates of an adult dragon. The small creature trembled, letting out tiny sounds that cut into Evan's chest. It was scared. It was in pain. It needed someone. Evan reached for the life support gel he used for fragile machines and wounded animals back on Earth. It was not meant for dragons, but it was the only thing he had. He warmed it with his hands and slowly applied it along the hatchling's chest. The creature's breathing steadied for a moment, then dipped again. "Come on," Evan whispered. "Stay with me." He adjusted the oxygen mix, guessing the right balance by watching how the hatchling reacted. Every small movement he made forced him to think carefully. Too much pressure might hurt it. Too little air might let it slip away. The hatchling suddenly twitched, its tail curling weakly. Evan leaned closer. "That's it. Fight a little more." Outside the lab window, the mother dragon lifted her head. Her eyes glowed faintly as she sensed a change. She watched Evan closely, her tail shaking with worry. She pressed her claws into the sand as if she wanted to help but could not move any closer. Hours passed, and Evan stayed beside the hatchling without rest. He adjusted machines, wiped away small drops of dark blood, and checked every breath the tiny creature took. Sometimes the breathing slowed so much he thought it would stop. Sometimes it picked up again, giving him the smallest spark of hope. When someone brought food for Evan, he barely noticed. He would not leave the hatchling, not even for a moment. He felt as if the mother dragon was watching him every second. Her trust kept him going. At one point, the hatchling let out a soft, sharp sound, a cry that made Evan's eyes widen. It wasn't a sound of pain. It was a sound of need. The creature opened one eye, then the other, though only halfway. The small eyes looked unfocused at first, then slowly turned toward Evan. The moment their eyes met, something changed. The hatchling's shaking stopped. Its breathing steadied a little. The tiny creature pressed its face against Evan's hand as if sensing safety. Evan froze for a moment, then gently placed his hand around it to keep it warm. "You're okay," he said softly. "I've got you." The mother dragon outside made a low rumbling sound, a sound that carried relief through the air. Some soldiers stepped back, surprised. "She can feel it," someone whispered. "She knows the hatchling is alive." Evan worked through the night even when his eyes grew heavy. Whenever he felt himself slow down, he looked at the small dragon beside him. That was enough to keep him awake. This life was fragile, but it was fighting. By dawn, the hatchling was breathing more evenly. It even moved its wings a little, though they were still weak. Evan smiled, tired but full of hope. He watched as the tiny creature lifted its head and made a soft, chirping sound. Then it pressed its body closer to his arm. "Good," Evan whispered. "That's good." He carried the hatchling carefully to the window so the mother dragon could see. When she spotted her child awake and alive, she lifted her head higher than she had since she crashed. She let out a long, deep cry that echoed across the outpost, a cry filled with relief instead of fear. The soldiers lowered their weapons. The medics stepped closer in surprise. Everyone could feel the weight of the moment. A human had saved a dragon hatchling. A mother dragon had trusted that human with everything. Evan went back to the table and continued to treat the hatchling. He knew this was only the beginning. The creature still had a long way to go. But now it had a real chance. Outside, the mother dragon rested her head on the ground. Her eyes slowly closed, finally allowing herself to sleep. She trusted Evan to watch over her child. And Evan, tired but determined, kept working. He refused to give up, not now, not ever. The mother dragon had placed her hope in him, and he would not let her down. The sun rose slowly over the outpost, casting soft light through the lab windows. Evan sat beside the hatchling, who now slept curled against a warm blanket. Its breathing was steady, its tiny chest rising and falling in a calm rhythm. Evan finally allowed himself a small smile. The worst danger had passed. But something strange had started happening. Every time Evan walked away, even for a second, the machines in the room flickered. The air around the hatchling shimmered like heat rising from the ground. When he returned and placed his hand near the small creature, the shimmering stopped. At first, Evan thought it was just exhaustion playing tricks on him. But when the outpost scientists finally dared to enter the lab, they froze the moment they saw the hatchling. A soft glow pulsed beneath its small scales, like a light trying to shine through. "What is that?" one of them whispered. "I don't know," Evan said. "It wasn't glowing like this yesterday." The mother dragon outside lifted her head as if hearing something. She stared at the lab with deep focus, her injured wings shifting slightly. The scientists gathered around the machines, checking readings and sensors. Their confusion grew with every number they saw. This energy level, this is impossible. This isn't normal dragon biology. Evan looked between them, concerned. What does it mean? A tall alien diplomat who had arrived earlier after hearing about the mother dragon, stepped forward. He had been silent until now. His silver eyes studied the hatchling carefully. "This young one carries something rare," he said. "Something powerful. Something dangerous if handled wrongly. Evan felt a chill run through him. The diplomat continued, "This hatchling carries a core. Not just a normal life core like other dragons. A royal core." Evan blinked. "Royal?" The diplomat nodded slowly. "This child belongs to a ruling bloodline. That mother outside is not just any dragon. She is a guardian matriarch. Her child is born with a core that grows with strong emotion, fear, pain, hope, safety." Evan stepped closer to the hatchling in instinct. "Is it in danger?" "In danger?" "No." The diplomat's voice lowered. "We are." Everyone stared at him. He explained, "A royal core releases intense energy when the hatchling is scared or hurt. If this young one had died, the energy would have burst. It would have destroyed this entire valley." Evan looked down at the small, sleeping creature. It seemed so gentle. So innocent. It was hard to imagine it could hold that kind of power. The diplomat added, "But somehow, the core is calm now. More stable than we expected." Evan felt the eyes of the scientists turn to him. He didn't understand why until the diplomat spoke again. "It is because the hatchling recognizes you." Evan frowned. "Me? Oh, I'm not even its kind." The diplomat shook his head. "Dragons do not see with only their eyes. They sense intention, emotion, and danger. When the mother dragon saw you, she saw no fear in you, only a desire to help. That is why she trusted you. And now the hatchling trusts you even more." Evan looked at the tiny creature, who shifted slightly and curled its tail around his wrist. A warm pulse of light spread from the hatchling, and the machine steadied. The diplomat's expression softened. "Look at that. Even your presence keeps its core stable." A quiet moment filled the lab. The workers and soldiers outside watched from the windows, unsure how to react. The mother dragon raised her head higher, feeling the calm energy from her young. But suddenly alarms rang through the outpost. Everyone jumped. A guard rushed into the room. "Commander, unknown ships are moving toward our location." The diplomat frowned. "Rival factions. They must have detected the pulse from the royal core last night." Evan's stomach tightened. "They're coming for the hatchling?" "Yes," the diplomat said. "If they capture it, they will use the core to control or destroy peaceful regions. And if anyone tries to forcefully separate the hatchling from the one it trusts." Evan finished for him quietly. "The core could explode." The diplomat nodded. Evan looked at the hatchling again. It opened its eyes slowly and let out a small chirp. It nudged his hand gently, seeking comfort. Evan stroked its head with careful fingers. Outside, the mother dragon let out a soft warning growl. She sensed the danger approaching. The scientist nearest to Evan whispered, "We can't fight those ships. We're not ready." "We're not," the diplomat admitted. "But the mother dragon cannot move. She is too wounded." "And the hatchling can't be moved either," someone else added. "If it panics, everything could break." Evan took a deep breath and looked around at everyone. Their fear, their confusion, their helplessness, it all felt heavy. But when he looked at the hatchling, something inside him steadied. The small creature trusted him. The mother dragon trusted him. And now the outpost needed him. "We're not losing them," Evan said firmly. "Not the mother, not the hatchling, not anyone." The diplomat stared at him in surprise. "You speak as if you already decided." "I have," Evan replied. "I'll protect them." As he spoke, the hatchling's glow brightened, soft, steady, hopeful. And outside, the mother dragon raised her head and released a deep, powerful rumble. It wasn't a warning. It was an answer. She trusted him completely. The sky turned dark long before the sun could fully set. Strange lights moved in the clouds, steady and silent, like eyes watching from above. Evan stood near the lab window, holding the hatchling close to his chest. The small creature sensed something wrong. Its tiny claws held onto Evan's shirt, and its wings trembled softly. Outside, the mother dragon lifted her head and growled, low and deep. Her body was weak, but her instincts were strong. She knew danger was close. The outpost speakers crackled with the commander's voice. "Enemy ships detected. All guards to positions. Civilians stay inside." Soldiers ran past the lab. Lights blinked red across the hallways. Evan felt the hatchling move against him in fear. A soft glow began to pulse under its scales. "No, not now," Evan whispered. "Don't be scared." The hatchling pressed its small head into his chest, trying to calm down. But the glow only softened a little. It needed him to stay close. It needed to feel safe. The diplomat entered the room, breathing hard. "They will reach the outpost soon. They want the hatchling. They won't stop." Evan nodded. "I'm not giving them anything." The diplomat looked at the glowing creature in his arms. Then you must be very careful. If the hatchling panics, its core will react. And tonight that could be deadly. A loud, sharp explosion shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Soldiers outside shouted orders. The mother dragon let out a roar that echoed across the entire outpost. She tried to stand fully, but her wounds made her stumble. Still, she kept her eyes on the sky. Enemy ships broke through the clouds like sharp shadows. They fired warning shots into the sand, kicking up waves of dust. A metal pod dropped from one of them and slammed into the outer gate, breaking through with a burst of sparks and smoke. The gates collapsed. Evan held the hatchling tighter. The diplomat turned to him quickly. Get to the inner bunker. It's the only place strong enough to shield the hatchling from panic. But when Evan tried to move, the hatchling chirped fearfully and curled up even tighter against him. Its glow brightened. Moving suddenly might scare it even more. Another explosion shook the outpost. Raiders dressed in dark armor rushed through the broken gate, pushing past guards and firing stun blasts. They moved fast, determined, searching for something specific. Searching for the hatchling. The mother dragon struggled to rise, her wings dragging in the sand. She released a powerful roar and threw herself forward, blocking the raiders. Even injured, she was still a guardian. She snapped at the attackers, forcing them back with sheer force and determination. But there were too many of them. Evan needed to help her, but he couldn't fight with the hatchling in his arms. He needed a safe place, fast. He ran into the hallway, the diplomat right behind him. This way. The building shook again. A hole burst open in the wall as raiders fired at the structure. Evan shielded the hatchling from falling debris. The small creature cried out, and the glow under its scales became brighter, too bright. Stay calm, Evan whispered urgently. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. The hatchling quieted a little, but the glow still pulsed with fear. They reached a large metal door at the end of the hall. Evan entered a code, and the door slid open to reveal a small chamber lined with shield plates. This is it, the diplomat said. Get inside. Evan stepped in and gently placed the hatchling on a soft platform he had prepared earlier. The creature looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. It didn't want him to leave. I'm not going anywhere, Evan whispered, staying by its side. Suddenly, the door behind him burst open. Raiders stormed inside, weapons raised. Evan stood between them and the hatchling without thinking. His heart pounded, but he did not step back. You're not touching them, he said. The raiders pointed their weapons at him. The hatchling cried out, and its glow turned sharp, bright, too strong. The machines in the room began to beep wildly. If the hatchling panicked any more, the core would explode. But before the raiders could move forward, a thunderous roar filled the air. The mother dragon crashed through the broken doorway, her body glowing with faint energy from the hatchling's core. She moved with strength she shouldn't have had. She pushed the raiders aside and stood in front of Evan, shielding both him and her child. The raiders stepped back in fear. The mother dragon released a powerful burst of sound, shaking the ground. The enemy ships in the sky turned away, retreating. The raiders stumbled out of the building and fled, leaving the outpost behind. Silence slowly returned. The mother dragon, trembling but victorious, lowered her head to Evan. Her eyes were softer now, full of gratitude and relief. She touched her nose gently to the hatchling, then to Evan. The small creature chirped and climbed into Evan's arms again, finally calm. The diplomat approached, amazed. This bond between you all, it saved us. Evan looked at the mother dragon, then at the hatchling in his arms. We saved each other, he said quietly. The night had been full of fire and danger, but something stronger had grown in the middle of it all. A bond no enemy could break. Morning arrived quietly, as if the world itself was tired from the long night. Smoke still rose from the broken gate and soldiers were busy repairing walls, but there was no fear in the air anymore. The danger had passed. Evan stood beside the mother dragon as the hatchling rested in his arms. Its glow was soft now, warm and gentle, almost like the heartbeat of a calm child. The mother dragon watched every movement he made, her eyes filled with something no one had ever seen from a dragon before, trust without fear. The diplomat approached carefully. His voice was steady, but Evan could hear the amazement in it. You protected her child. And she protected you. This has never happened between humans and dragons. Evan looked up at the massive creature beside him. I didn't do anything special, he said quietly. I only helped. The diplomat shook his head. You did something no human has ever done. You became part of the hatchling's bond. And now the mother sees you as family. Evan wasn't sure how to respond. He looked at the hatchling, who chirped softly and curled closer against his chest. It wasn't afraid anymore. It wasn't glowing with unstable energy. It simply felt safe. Soon, more dragons appeared in the sky, 3 large figures landing carefully around the outpost. Soldiers raised their weapons in fear, but the mother dragon let out a small, calm rumble. The soldiers slowly lowered their guns. The new dragon stepped forward. Their scales shined in the sunlight, and their wings were large enough to cast wide shadows on the ground. They were strong and proud, but upon seeing the injured mother and the small hatchling, they lowered their heads with respect. One of them spoke in a low, deep tone, translated by a device on the diplomat's wrist. "Guardian Matriarch, we came when we felt the pulse of your child. We feared the worst." The mother dragon responded with soft growls and huffs. The translator repeated her message. "My child lives. Because this human protected us." The other dragons looked at Evan with surprise. Dragons were known to be distant, proud, and often aggressive when it came to their young. But here was a human standing right beside a guardian matriarch, holding her child, unharmed. One dragon stepped closer. "Human, we owe you a great debt." Evan shifted, suddenly shy. "You don't owe me anything. I just didn't want the hatchling to die." The hatchling chirped and stretched its small wings happily. It placed its tiny head against Evan's chest again, making everyone watching fall silent. Dragons never behaved like that. The diplomat stepped forward. "If the dragons are willing, maybe this is our chance. A chance to make peace. A chance to work together instead of fearing each other." The eldest dragon nodded slowly. "For many years our worlds stayed apart. We kept our distance because we believed humans could not understand us." He looked at Evan. "But this human did something we never thought possible." Another dragon added, "The child trusts him. That is more powerful than any treaty." The mother dragon lifted her head proudly. She made a long, soft sound that echoed across the outpost. The translator spoke. "This human will be the hatchling's second guide. The bond has already formed. It cannot be undone." Everyone stared at Evan. "Second guide?" he asked quietly. "It means," the diplomat explained, "that you are now part of the hatchling's life. A protector. A teacher. A partner. A role usually given only to dragons." Evan held the hatchling a little tighter. He felt its soft breath against his arm. He remembered the fear in its eyes, the glow that almost destroyed everything, and the way it calmed the moment he held it. He didn't know much about dragons. He didn't know what being a second guide meant. But he knew one thing. He cared about the hatchling. And the mother dragon trusted him with her child. Evan nodded. "If that's what the hatchling wants, then I'll stay." The mother dragon leaned down and gently touched her forehead to his shoulder. It was a gesture of welcome, an ancient dragon sign meaning, "You are one of us now." The soldiers lowered their weapons completely. The scientists watched in disbelief. The diplomat smiled in relief. For the first time in history, humans and dragons stood together without fear. Over the next hours, both sides worked to rebuild the outpost. Dragons helped lift heavy structures with ease. Humans treated the mother dragon's wounds with advanced medical tools. The hatchling stayed close to Evan, sometimes climbing onto his shoulder, sometimes curling up in his arms. Everywhere he walked, people whispered about the miracle they had witnessed. A human had saved a dragon's young. A dragon trusted a human more than her own kind. 2 worlds had changed because one man refused to give up. As the sun set again, the hatchling fell asleep in Evan's lap. The mother dragon rested beside him, her large body curled protectively around them both. The stars appeared in the sky, bright and calm. Evan looked at the tiny creature he had saved and smiled softly. "We're going to be okay," he whispered. "All of us." And for the first time in centuries, dragons and humans shared the same sky. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as allies bound by a bond stronger than fear. A bond that changed everything.